This is a Media Lab podcast.
Kyle, what's all over your walls, man?
I don't know. I feel like I'm in the middle of a police procedural. I'm just taking like bits of red yarn and trying to connect them. I woke up to this and the machine has painted all these weird runes and symbols around my walls here. I don't know what this means.
Why is there a piece of somebody's tongue on the floor? That's pretty fucking disgusting, man.
You didn't mention it last week. In his own garage, Kyle has built a machine, cobbled together with parts found in his friend's church basement and a dumpster behind the local Dairy Queen. This monstrosity is now alive and evil. Kyle has convinced his friend Dave to help stop the apocalypse by reviewing films the machine picks. The ultimate purpose is still unknown, and Kyle could have probably done this himself, but he's not being dragged to hell alone. This is Kyle and Dave versus the machine. Welcome to Kyle and Dave vs. the Machine. My name is Kyle.
And I'm still Dave.
And I'm the machine.
A podcast where a sentient machine forces us to watch movies in order to prevent it from initiating the apocalypse. Although we do tend to talk about the ideas of the movie rather than the movie itself. For whatever reason, this machine really wants us to talk about the movies from 1999. And today, we're going to be watching the film The Blair Witch Project.
This is my home, which I am leaving the comforts of for the weekend to explore the Blair Witch. I can see you.
I'm real excited about this. Thank you for
I'm
the
very
opportunity.
glad.
This area's been haunted by that old woman for years.
I don't know why you have to have every conversation on video.
Because we're making a documentary.
Not about us getting lost. We're making a documentary about a witch.
I know.
Lost, admit that first.
No, I know we're not lost.
They're all over the place.
So how do we know it was people?
Well, even if it wasn't, I'm not going to play with that either.
And it's all because of me that we're here now. Hungry and cold and hunted. Just want to apologize to Mike's mom.
All right, Dave, I am super interested in knowing what you think about... Oh, wait. Oh, we have a knock on our guest door, Dave. It's been a while.
You gotta fix that thing. It's just standing in the middle of the room.
Open it up here. Oh, hey guys, how's it going?
Whoa! Where are we?
Hey.
You have traveled to the weirdest place, Canada.
We're humble from the UK.
Welcome to the colonies. It's a great place to hang out sometimes. Why don't you both introduce yourselves?
So we are Wack Chat. It's movie time. My name is Mitch Slack.
I'm Shaun Wildham, and we're a movie podcast, basically.
Another movie podcast, encroaching on our copyright, I should say. But
we noticed earlier that you guys like to upload at the same time as us as well.
Yeah.
I know, isn't it weird? We both decide to release on Fridays. How did you both start your podcast? What's it about?
I mean, we've attempted something previously, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where we just thought we'd start a podcast and talk absolute crap
Yeah.
for about an hour. Nothing to do with movies or anything like that.
My nickname is the Claw.
And then
Decided to niche down a bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
We needed something to claw in on. We're both just massive movie fans. So
yeah, we've watched a lot of films in the last 10 years of our relationship.
yeah, so we met in college and Shaun got a job at Blockbuster.
Nice.
And-
Like Blockbuster Video?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's
Did my
amazing.
time.
And so you got films for free. So he used to get a load of films, come round mine, and we'd watch films all night.
Did
That's
you
awesome.
ever, did you branch out? Like, what is the weirdest movie you brought home to watch while you were at Blockbuster?
There's been a few.
It was that the doll one was weird, wasn't it?
I know what one you're on about.
Dead Silence. I
That's
think it's
it.
called.
Yeah, that was
Dead
weird one.
Silence. It's like
Dead
killer,
silence.
little killer mannequin dolls.
That's
dolls.
it. When
Puppet dolls. Little puppets.
When we branched
Weird.
out, we went through all the genres, and I think we found that the weirdest genre was definitely the horror
Oh
genre.
yeah, horror. That was
Because
awesome.
Yeah.
you notice that there's no budget in horror movies, like generically speaking.
Very
And
rarely.
so
yes.
there are a lot of movies made
Yeah.
in the horror bracket that are just not done very well.
I'll posit that there's no movie, there's no money because they shouldn't be made?
I get it. Dave's the critic. I see.
Yeah. But what do we really need? We need a bucket of blood. We need some spooky thing. Kids singing a nursery rhyme slowly. Like, that's all you need. That's a horror movie right there.
You need a creepy child somewhere, a creepy old person, and then you've done it.
Yeah.
With Dave, at least we have a creepy old person on this podcast.
Oh, I should ask you, do you have time to watch the Blair Witch Project with us?
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Great. I want to start with the both of you. What is your history with this movie? Have you seen it before?
I've seen it once previously, and I've probably avoided this film for about 15 years. I watched it in the last 5 years for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I probably watched it purely because of that. Was it a remake that came out or a
Yes.
reboot? Yeah.
It was a
and
reboot in
what-
2016.
that's what got me to watch the original.
Even shakier. Blair Witch 2.
I've seen the 1999.
I hate to ask this of you both. What ages were you in 1999?
Six.
Yeah, I know I would have been 5. Yeah.
Okay.
Fuck.
I was actually more worried about, like, I wasn't born in 1999. And then I was
No,
like,
don't
oh,
worry.
God.
We are 90s babies. It's fine.
When
Yeah,
he,
yeah, yeah.
he brought up
Pre-millennia.
Blockbuster, I thought he might be one of us, Kyle, but
No.
shit.
Damn it.
And then, okay, so when you watched it here in the last 5 years, was it like a positive feeling that you had for it, or I don't know, what was your feelings of it
Nausea?
last time you watched it?
I thought it was terrible. Absolutely
Yeah.
terrible.
Fucking right.
Yeah. I can understand what it's done for the genre, but yeah, it's not a good film. I can't understand either how this cost 60,000 to be made.
Yeah, I don't understand the budget, maybe. I kind of completely disagree. I actually really like this film. I love the fact that it's almost a revolution for these types of movies. You've created a film that has almost the best return on investment you could in a film. It's nothing and it's huge. It's absolutely massive, and I think anyone that loves horror movies or even film in general has heard of the Blair Witch.
I definitely think it still has this aura around it. Like, people still know what you're talking about. Even if they have never seen the movie, they understand the Blair Witch Project, what that is,
Yeah.
and what kind of movie they think they're kind of getting into.
Yeah.
They just start dry heaving on the spot.
How about you, Dave? Dave, what is your history with the Blair Witch Project?
Yes, please,
Well, in
Dave.
our-
I'm excited.
Actually, I don't have one. I avoided this. As soon as I heard that you go into a theater and all you smell is puke, I decided that I didn't need it in my life. I also am not a big fan of the horror genre in general. I had a very scarring event when I was a kid. The first horror movie I watched was Pet Sematary, and that fucked me up so badly. I think I was like 10. So I was like, nah, I don't need it. I don't need this shit in my life. And yeah. I mean,
You would
I'm the
think
guy
I'd
that
have
cried in Transformers, so I'm very sensitive.
Oh, Dave. You're the
You would
man.
think I'd have a similar aversion to horror films in that me and my brother, I remember this vividly. I was maybe 4 years old and snuck out of bed, and It was on television, like the Stephen
The
King
clowns?
miniseries. God, that
would've
was
killed
a
you.
scarring memory from my
Yeah.
childhood.
It's a well-known fact that clowns are the natural enemies of robots.
How do you feel about clowns now then, watching that? You're too young.
Oh, do not like them at all. I can barely eat at McDonald's. Yeah.
So, Dave, have you avoided the horror genre?
Genre.
The horror genre your entire life?
I mean, it's crossed over so much where things like, I don't know, Constantine, like there's that midway where action movies are going to the supernatural. That stuff's okay. But yeah, I don't like jump scare shit. I don't like the gore. I mean, every movie's got gore now. And Thanos was fucking beheaded in a kid's film. So, you can't avoid that.
That's true. That is true.
Right? Super weird. I don't like horror movies. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what that says about.
I find that I am better at watching horror films at home because it takes the scariness away. When I'm in a theater, when we could go to theaters, when I'm in a theater in the darkness and it's like this huge screen, it's like I constantly have to be like kind of looking at the floor and half looking at the screen. It's like I know something bad is going to happen. I know something bad is going to happen. And I freak out and like throw my popcorn to the roof. So it's a roller coaster ride with me.
I'm the same as you. I feel like when you watch a film in the cinema, it stays in your mind longer. Perhaps because you're just more fixed by what's going on. I think you just, you do remember it more.
I feel like horror films need to be watched in the cinema because of that aspect, though. Because the whole point of horror is to make your shit scared, isn't it? So you might as well pay for what you
there's-
get.
Literally,
yeah.
I think.
There's two genres specifically that I think are often made better when seen with the crowd, and that is horror films and comedies, where you kind of need to have that communal aspect to it. Because there's movies that I remember laughing like uproariously because of the people that were around me, and then you watch it at home, it's like, and you do like that small like half chuckle to yourself because you're not a crazy person.
That's how I feel like watching a lot of stand-up specials.
Right.
Yeah.
You just watch it
breathe
at
through
home.
your
You're
nose
like,
hard, yeah.
Yeah, why are there 10,000 people fucking laughing? That was a garbage joke.
Do you know, that is very true. When you're at a stand-up show, you laugh at everything they say because everyone else is laughing. And then as soon as you watch it at home, you are right. You have a little chuckle and that's it.
Yeah.
I will say my history with the Blair Witch Project, I can see, is much more involved than everyone else here on the podcast. So I was getting super into film. This would have been right around me turning 16 years old. And if you cast your mind back to 1999, this was very early internet.
The best internet.
There was this idea that, hey, there's like this scary movie coming to theaters and it's all true. And it's like, that's how they were marketing this film. It's like, this is a true story and this is a true story. It was slowly being revealed that that was not entirely true, that was just a marketing trick. But it was still the idea like this was made for $60,000. It's getting this wide release. It's getting this good buzz and people are going there. They're scared out of their minds. And I wanted nothing else but to go and see this in a theater. Now, I don't know if you both know this. Dave, I don't know if you know this either, but my theater in my small town burnt down when I was a small kid. So I didn't have access to a theater when I was growing up a whole lot.
No.
But there was this bigger city, like about 45 minutes away from us. And I begged my mother to go and see this film. And she said, absolutely not. I am not going to take you to a horror
I
film.
thought you saw this with your mom. I was like, ooh.
No.
Mom, you've ruined my life.
I know. I hate you. And like slam my door. So I had to wait a whole like 8 or 9 months for this to come out on VHS so that we could go and get this and like watch this as a family. That's how
You did watch it with your mom. Oh, wow.
Oh, like she was not watching this. She was in the other room, but she put it on and was like, whatever, come to me if you get scared. And I remember it kind of blowing my mind back then because it's like, oh, like this feels like it's real, even though I knew it wasn't. Like I knew it was not an actual true story, but it's like, it felt real. Like they're using these like mini cameras and stuff like that. And I can understand what it's like to be lost out in the woods. And I've come back to it a few times. When we watch this, I think this will be my 5th or 6th time that I've actually watched this movie over the years.
Self-respect.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And there's just something about it that I keep coming to, and I'm excited to jump in and talk about it because I don't know. I have some thoughts on why I think I keep coming back to this film.
I'm on your side, Carl. I think it's just I've probably seen it 4 times, and I just think it's revolutionary. It was such a new concept. It was innovative. It was good. Like I know some people that love the horror genre, and they still to this day say that's one of the scariest films they've seen, and it's because it was new. It was marketed as real, and when they watched it, they thought it was real, and it stuck with them, their entire life.
Well, let's get into it here then. I'm going to go thank some sponsors. We'll watch the movie, and then when we return, it'll be us talking about the Blair Witch Project. Hi there, Kyle breaking into the episode once again to tell you about some of our great sponsors that keep this show going. It's a spooky time of year, we all know that, and as Halloween encroaches ever closer, hopefully you, your family, your friends are all finding yourselves safe in these pretty trying times. Things are spooky not just in the films that we're watching, but in the reality that we live in. Might I suggest, if you are going to do the Halloween trick-or-treating here this year, to do what my friend has done and get a huge PVC tube so you can launch small chocolate bars at children without actually having to get up close to them. Plus, if things ever get back to normal, think of the huge spitballs you can do. But I should tell you that Kyle and Dave vs. the Machine is a proud member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. The Alberta Podcast Network promotes and supports Alberta-made podcasts and connects their audiences with Alberta-based businesses and organizations. This week, we are brought to you by a very apropos sponsor, the Alberta Forest Products. Just remember to make the proper offerings to the witch before you trek out into Alberta forests. Otherwise, an untimely end is in your future. Let's hear from the Alberta Forest Products now.
Alberta's forests matter to all of us. That's why Alberta's forest industry works to keep them sustainable now and for future generations. By planning 200 years ahead, helping control the spread of fire and disease, and planting and nurturing 2 trees for every 1 harvested, we keep our forests standing strong. To learn more about how our forests take care of us and how we take care of them, visit loveabforests.com.
This episode of Kyle and Dave versus the Machine is also brought to you by the Calgary Foundation. Whether it's funding anti-racism programs, addiction recovery, or food hampers for the hungry, for 65 years, the Calgary Foundation has proudly supported the charitable community to address some of Calgary's biggest challenges. Now, during this period of unprecedented urgent needs, Calgary Foundation renewed its commitment to building a healthy, vibrant, giving, caring, and resilient community. If you're a registered charity looking for a grant, a professional advisor creating a giving plan for your client, or a donor wanting to give back to community, discover a wealth of resources at calgaryfoundation.org and learn more about their work through Calgary Foundation's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. All right. There it is. Dave, I saw you trembling. I know you got a little bit scared. Or was that just you ready to throw up?
I have to throw up. It's not just the motion sickness. What a fucking terrible movie. Yeah.
All right. Well, I have a feeling there's going to be maybe a fight on this podcast. Non-spoilery as possible. Mitch and Shaun, what are your immediate reactions to seeing the Blair Witch Project in the year 2020?
I brought a bucket if you need it. So,
thank you. I probably will. I don't want to watch this film again. That'll probably be
we won't watch it together. Yeah.
That'll probably be the last time I watch this film, personally.
Sure.
This film's awesome. I genuinely could watch this a couple of times and be totally fine with it. I like it. It's something that can be recreated. So as I've said, it is innovative, and even though, now in 2020 we can rewatch that film and know that it inspired so many other films, it's great.
There's definitely the meta narrative that you can talk about how this inspired so many other things. For me, I think that is part of it, because I was so into the marketing of this film and wanting to go and see it. There's always going to be that special part of it in my life.
Your life has been very, very sad.
I was thinking about it while I was watching it this time, and I think part of it is that because it is so low budget, I think I forgive it for so many things that if this was a higher budget movie, I'd be way more critical of.
Sure.
It's because of that low budget nature that it also feels a little bit more, intimate, real. I don't know how else you want to say it. So that it was a lot of, we have $60,000 to spend, so how do we make a movie for $60,000? And there's just something, charming about that. But I feel is that I'm going to be defending this movie a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying that this is in my top 50 horror films of all time. It doesn't even come close.
Could you name 50 horror films?
I probably could if I really got into it. I'm sure I could make up
I bet Dave couldn't.
No.
Top? No. I'd list them all at the bottom. Yeah. I was going to quip quickly, Kyle, when you're describing how it's charming because of low budget. I thought you were talking about our friendship.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, we'll get into a little bit more of this here, but let's do some backstory here then. The Blair Witch Project was released on July 14th, 1999. The only other, I would say, major release that happened on that same day was Muppets from Space, directed by Tim Hill, written by Frederick Raphael, starring Frank Oz, Brian Henson, David Gels, and Steve Whitmer.
Why didn't we watch that, Kyle? That would have been a fundamentally
better movie. That might be even more scary
than
Blair Witch Project, even.
More realistic, I think. No.
So this is where I think it gets super interesting. So currently, the Blair Witch Project is rated 6.5 on IMDb, 81 on Metacritic. And when you jump over to Rotten Tomatoes, based on 162 critics, it's rated 86%.
Ooh, that is high.
And when you go to the users, though, of 401,943 of them, they rated a 56%. So that is a huge swing between critics and the people who actually went to it.
I like how it's proportional to the four of us.
Yeah, it really is.
50%
Straight
divide,
down
right?
the middle. That's good. Yeah.
This is, of course, available on DVD or Blu-ray. You can buy or rent it on iTunes. You can also rent it on Google Play or YouTube. And it's available to stream in Canada on both Prime or on this app called Stars. Which apparently, like, every one of our films has been on here recently somehow.
We're hoping to get sponsorship, but they have not been returning our calls.
Stars, give us a sponsorship. We talk about your great app, I mean, every single episode. Its budget, as we've mentioned here already, was $60,000, but it opened to $1.5 million. Domestically, it would make 140. Internationally, it would make another 108. So it went away with $248 million, which, if you want to do the math, is 5,000 times its return like, per its budget.
Quick note on my research. The actors made $500.
Yeah.
So there should be a lawsuit.
Ouch.
And,
oh my God.
I did not know that, and that is painful.
The studio walked away with this money. Like,
No,
they were laughing.
Jeez.
And I think the post-production budget is close to $1 million. Like after they went for reshoots and editing, I think it says something like $700,000. But
the story is a better
$500.
story. Yeah.
Frightening.
That's hurtful.
This feels all, again, like Hilary Swank making $3,000 for Boys Don't Cry. It's just like, how?
It's crazy. At least she got a statue, though.
Yes. Its plot description from IMDb is, 3 film students vanish after traveling into a Maryland forest to film a documentary on the local Blair Witch legend, leaving only their footage behind. Can we all agree, by the way, even though I like this movie, can we all agree that the documentary they were making would have been absolutely terrible?
Fucking garbage.
Yeah.
How are they film students?
Yeah.
It
Anyways,
just argued the entire trip.
I know. So it stars Heather Donahue as Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard as Joshua Leonard, and Michael Williams as Michael Williams. Do we have anything to say about those actors and their like future careers? Because
Yes.
I think there's only one thing I can tell you that these people have appeared in after this.
You've literally been in nothing.
So none of them have careers except for, is it Joshua? One guy remained in Hollywood. He's married to Allison Pill. So good for him.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's cool.
And the other two, well, the fascinating thing about $250 million is this. So their shit, their careers Hollywood-wise were broken by this movie. They never got a second chance.
I remember watching a documentary specifically about this. I don't know how much this is like Hollywood legend, true, whatever. Because the studio went all in on the fact that these people actually died, it was hard for them to get jobs because people thought they were actually dead.
Well, and the weird thing that I read was, what's the woman's name? Heather?
Heather,
like,
yeah.
She apparently was accosted on the streets by strangers.
Yeah, she was not
it's a
treated
fucking
very nicely.
movie, people.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, if everyone thought you dead and you just turned up to one of the studios and went, boom, here I am.
You're right,
I'm pretty sure they'd go, we need you in a film now.
Hold my calls, Linda. Slam.
The only thing I found on Wikipedia that's interesting is Heather now grows medicinal marijuana. So
Sure.
good for her.
Why not?
And
That
gonna
is
be
a transition.
That's a boom industry, so I think she's doing okay.
She was on an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I saw that credit, so I'll give her credit for that.
That's
credit,
the only thing I remember them ever being in besides this
show.
movie.
I don't remember
And
seeing
then
him
the
in that.
guy, what's the guy's name? Josh?
There's Joshua Leonard and Michael Williams.
I can't remember which one, but one of them is a guidance counselor. So,
Oh, really? Look at that.
it's
See?
just nice
The
Hollywood.
Blair
happy
Witch
ending.
scared him so much.
Yeah, he never went back. He never. Well, are you going to talk about how they shot this movie? Because there's something to that too, with some PTSD stuff.
Go on.
There is. They this would be
Fucking
very problematic if people made this film the way they made it back then. But we'll get to that. This was written and directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez. The quick rundown of that is that Daniel Myrick had written for this TV series called Split Screen, and him and Eduardo Sanchez collaborated on just this movie and then seemed to kind of split away and do other things after that. Myrick has directed some other horror films. His last credit was for something called Skyman that supposedly came out this year. I'm sure it did, but it's available on video on demand. But its plot description is this. It's the story of Carl Merriweather, who believes he experienced an alien encounter at 10 years old and is now trying to reconnect with the UFO at the same location. And then
Nope.
Sanchez took to directing TV. So he's worked on the From Dusk Till Dawn series, Lucifer, The In-Betweens, Supernatural, and Queen of the South. And there is a film called Bloody Mary that is currently in pre-production but has no plot description. So they're still working.
He's done
They're
quite
still
a lot
making
then.
movies.
He's done quite a lot for TV.
Yeah, like a ton of TV stuff. Like that's basically where he's basically stayed in. Well, let's get into some spoilers here. Well, spoilery as much as we can. Let's start with the negative opinions here that are in the room. What doesn't work for you with this movie?
Nothing happens. Literally, nothing happens.
I can't necessarily disagree with that, but with a little asterisk beside it.
You just find that you're just sitting there and you're waiting for the scare, and it never comes, and then it just ends on nothing. It's really boring. It's the sort of film you can turn on and you'll end up just missing half of it because you just lose attention because it's just boring because nothing happens.
I think it's funny you say that because the first time I watched it, I couldn't stop watching it. And I think it was because there was so much suspense throughout the film. I was like, it's gonna give it to me at some point. Just make me jump. Show me it. Just come on. And it never comes. You're right. So
Yeah.
I get the negative side, but that suspense killed me the whole way through the film.
That definitely is my experience with the first time too. And I think for me, I think that there is a lot of sound design in this film that if you like crank your sound system a bit, like there's
It's
these
not good.
weird cries in the background and like weird children singing and like old crones laughing and all this other stuff. So it's all this imaginary stuff. It's what a lot of people tell you to do in horror films, which is like build that suspense, don't show anything until you absolutely have to. It's like the old Jaws technique.
There are sounds of twigs like snapping outside the tent, and the reverb is cranked up so loud in it.
Oh yeah,
You're
yeah,
like, whoa, boo.
And not to step on your toes here, Dave, because you were texting me while we were watching this movie, even though we were sitting right beside each other. And like you mentioned how like fuzzy things are and how like out of focus they are. I mean, again, I it's just weird because I just have the opposite opinion of that. I'd find that to be a bit charming because I'm thinking like this would have been the early advent of digital videography, which in 1999 may have been at 720p. I don't even know if it would have been that high. It might have been 480 actually, what this movie was released in.
Yeah.
So I don't know what output that actually would have been as far as resolution goes. So yeah, that's why everything is a little bit underfocused in this entire movie.
It was in a
because
time when nobody knew what resolution meant.
I still don't.
You just turned on your fucking TV and shut the hell up and just watched it, right?
True.
But no, I hated it. I hated all of it. It made me nauseous. If hypothetically I watched this by myself, I couldn't hear anything. I kept turning away because I was going to throw up. And I thought the people are fucking obnoxious. I didn't understand why they stayed in the forest. And by the end, I think I tried to turn the movie off, let's say, hypothetically
Dave,
4
can
times.
Can you give me one singular positive of this movie?
It ended. It was short. It was only 80 minutes of my life. I will say, I mean, the sound design was awful. Like I could hear fucking crickets, but I couldn't hear what anybody was saying, which is just fucking weird. When I turned the movie off, I did get a little bit of the sense of a heebie-jeebie because my whole condo was black. And then I realized, so stupid because it was a stupid movie and I just get on with my life. Just fuck off, right? I think if I didn't get motion sickness so easily, I might have probably just hated it more.
I was going to say that because I know that this movie is often referred to as like almost the advent of the shaky cam, and I don't actually find it all that shaky in this movie. This is not like Paul Greengrass like just going around shaking the camera for no reason.
This is why you wear glasses. I don't think you're actually watching the movie. There isn't a single
when they're running, absolutely, but when they're just walking around, like it's not like they're like all over the place. Like
the high 8 stuff is, she's just sitting there like this with her fucking camera, and they're trying to talk.
She's nervous. She's nervous, Dave. Leave her alone.
Well, just a quick trivia thing. When they cast this movie in like a classified section of a magazine in Maryland or something.
Right.
That's how Meryl Streep was discovered, I think.
And when she got cast, they gave her a 2-day prep on how to use a camera, and you can tell because she didn't know what she was fucking doing. Yeah, it was just Like she just said it like this, and I hated it. I hated all of it.
And she got $500.
She did get $500.
ones,
Yeah,
yeah.
she earned her five bills. Yeah, it's awful.
I think that's also part of it because I don't really get motion sickness other movies. The only found footage film I ever have actually was Cloverfield. Cloverfield, I got sick in the
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel the same. Yeah.
in the theater. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna throw up. But that's literally the only one I've ever felt that way.
I feel like I'm gonna throw up now just thinking about it.
So here's my first defense, which is I actually think that this movie is structured really interestingly. It actually makes me recall a lot of the really early Universal horror films in that there's always a scene where it's like, I can go no further because that is like Dracula's domain. And like, you know what I mean? There's like, they always have like the weird village people that are coming out there and telling them about what's going to happen. And that's exactly what happens here too. She goes around, talks to some of like the townspeople. They meet those two people in the river, like don't go in there. Like I've heard that weird things happen. Like it's up to you if you want to, but I wouldn't go in there if I were you. And then they decide to do, and they cross that threshold.
He's like, you kids
I'll
will
just
never
quickly
learn.
interject. That was with the one positive moment is when the baby tries to shut the mom's mouth because she's getting creeped. That was probably the scariest part of the whole movie.
Do you
because
know?
That felt very real. Yeah.
Well, I'm actually convinced that they went around and there were some actors in that, but I think that might have been a real townsperson that was just holding a baby or talking
They held
about
it
the Blair
until it
Witch.
cried and told her to shut up.
Yeah.
It's possible.
I actually feel like that whole like beginning section of them like getting ready, going, talking, filming their like documentary before they go into the woods. If those are actors, like good job acting like actual real people, because I've talked to old men that like act exactly like that old man does.
Phrasing. Yeah, phrasing. Yeah.
I actually liked the way that, because they're kind of like students in it, aren't they? Or they're they want to do a documentary. I like the fact that it was shown to be so amateur. So even at the beginning, like random shots were shot in black and white, just like for no reason. There's no reason for it. They've just gone black and white. And then
as a person who had to sit through many a student film when I went to university, boy, is that accurate. Random black and white because you think you're being artful, I guess.
Exactly.
Like this, it happens all the time.
It is
so
art.
I respected that. I thought it was quite well thought. Or because she'd only had 2 days of training. She went
For 2 days, it's great. The negative that I will say for the movie that always gets my goat, boy, do they go unprepared into the woods. And as someone who has lived near the woods like that for many, many years, it's like, what a bad idea to go in there with no plan and not knowing how to get out. But more than that, what I think is the bigger feeling of this movie is my feeling here is that the movie is trying to argue like that the witch is actually obscuring their way out and like changing things around. But because they're so bad at orienteering and navigating the woods, that it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like they're lost in the woods for most of this movie. Where I think if they had been good at orienteering and then things started being weird and awkward, that I think would have been a bigger impact for me as a viewer. Otherwise, it's just like they are literally just lost in the woods and there's no paranormal thing happening here.
One other quick piece of trivia, just because we brought up that there's no real reveal. Apparently, there was supposed to be a scene where a person was dressed up as the witch, but the cameraman forgot to pan to it, and so they just left it out of the movie.
Who here hasn't made that mistake?
That's
tells you everything you know about the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, this is a funny story.
I mentioned this to Mitch. When I said it to him, he was like, was that the scene on like the third or fourth night when they get out of the tent and it's literally, Mitch was, what did you say? It was
I said, there's a bit where she goes, oh shit, what was that? And I was like, I bet it's that scene there. And that was the first thing I said to you. And he kind of goes like that and then it goes bang and they start running and you just miss it.
Maybe they should have done a bit of rehearsal on this movie, really, is what they should have done, probably.
Yeah. Well, you would have redone the shot, surely.
Did you guys read about how it was shot? Like how creepy the whole thing was set up?
No.
So
the directors played about with him a lot, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
And apparently the listing was for an improv thing, so there's no lines that were actually written for them. So they were given character cues and then dropped off in this forest.
And that makes sense. That makes sense because of the way they interact is quite offhand, isn't it? You can tell it's not scripted.
A bit like Tropic Thunder.
Right, yeah, just drop it in the middle of the... I mean,
script read through.
I know that there are some moments of them, like, in the tent where they did not know the directors were going to come and, like, screw with them and stuff like that. So that's actual real terror that they are actually going through at that point. Which is not a cool thing to do for $500, I would say.
Psychopaths.
Like psychopathic filmmaking. The thing that still works for me a lot is actually the very end. I know you both said that like nothing happens, but the fact that they set that up so well about like, hey, this witch disembowels them, she puts the kids in the corner, they sit there and kills them all like one by one. I kind of love that that's how it ends. A guy standing on the wall, cut to black basically, as you think something's about to happen, sort of thing.
Baby should have starred in this movie. The witch wouldn't have been able to get her.
If it were me, though, because of how they were marketing this film, boy, does it hurt the illusion when it like goes there, cuts to black, and is like written and directed by these people. It's like, oh well, I want them to hide that fact a little bit more, that this is written and directed by somebody.
He launched the camera at the guy, knocked him out,
That's right,
grabbed it, run out, and quickly uploaded it.
Actually, yeah, you could probably have a much more interactive fiction with this sort of idea now, with everything being instant.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I said. Like, I mean, to just jump off on that point for a bit. I mean, definitely found footage films had their day in the sun, and I don't think they're made all that much anymore. But you would think that there would be like an explosion now with like literally everybody in their pocket having something that can shoot basically 4K footage.
But isn't that what Instagram is? It's just everybody wants found footage of themselves in a bikini. I mean, that's the whole idea. It's just nobody's dying yet. Although there are, I saw the live feed of Lebanon, not to get too political, but that shit was on Instagram and YouTube. That like the moment it happened, that's some scary shit,
Yeah.
I just look at cats. I don't know what you're talking about.
Keep me in my bubble.
Actually, this is the real question that I had that I wrote down. Found footage is primarily, and I can't even think of a counterexample, so if you do, like, let me know, is primarily a horror genre thing. But I don't think that found footage necessarily needs to be a horror genre. So why do you think that was the one genre that decided to go with it?
Nobody will pay them to make this piece of shit. So it's got to be done.
Yeah, it's low budget.
Yeah, I mean, that's partly true. Yeah, low budget.
Good question. I mean, that's one to think about, yeah.
Yeah. I guess the one that is not technically horror, like straight up horror, is Chronicle. That's the only one I could think of. That's basically a superhero film. I
actually quite like that film. It's like a dark,
Being real scares you more, so found footage is the most real it gets, and you don't really need that in any other genre.
Where's my found footage romantic comedy? That's what I want.
I was literally just thinking the same thing. Imagine a romance film. Oh, I love you.
Right, just like zoom in.
I think the closest you'll get of found footage in other genres is those films that have been coming out where it's just like the webcam of like social media and stuff like that.
With Searching with John Cho,
yeah,
I think.
It, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
There's a few of them now, aren't there?
I think though, and this is my other main argument for this, is I think that maybe a lot of that has been migrated over to YouTube and Instagram. YouTube more primarily, I think. You have those people who do like 40-minute long documentaries every like 1 or 2 weeks on their channels, and they go and interview people and stuff because it's so easy for like consumers to go and get quality video for not like a huge amount of money. So I think that this type of thing is just navigating over to there, and that's what YouTube has always been able to sell. Is like, this is real, this feels more intimate, like this is real people talking and stuff like that. So I don't know if it necessarily needs to be in films necessarily anymore.
Sure. Well, it's just, I mean, even there are YouTube channels that are solely for horror, aren't they?
True.
Like people do unboxing of scary things, or they do ghost reveals in their households where they and it is, it's just, I guess it's easy.
That's not on my algorithm, thank God. But
hey guys, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. By the way, special guest, the Blair Witch is here. All right.
Imagine if Dave's door just goes.
That's right.
You know what found footage I got into? I spent 20 minutes on YouTube watching someone power clean a dirty car seat. And I fucking watched the whole thing. So there are other genres. Yeah, it's fascinating.
I think that says more about you, Dave, than anything else. But
I'll send it. You should watch it. It's riveting.
Link in the description below.
That's right.
I will. And that's a threat. Yeah.
Good man.
I wanted to ask the question that we sometimes ask on this show when I don't forget to. What would you think you would have thought in 1999 versus now? Like, Dave, if you went and saw this movie in 1999, would you have the exact same interpretation, do you think? Or would you have had something different to say?
I'd probably have thrown up more. I don't know. I mean, this is the thing, though. For me, I don't like this genre in any of its form, blockbuster or, low budget indie. So I have a very biased opinion, which is that they all suck. It's hard to picture, when I'm 99, I'm 20 or something, 21. Yeah, I don't know if I would appreciate any of it. I do remember, though, the hype, like you were talking about, Kyle, and the people that I knew that were into this sort of thing were losing their minds because of the way it was marketed. And it is obvious that if this thing's getting a theatrical distribution that it's not real, but they, reading up, they actually had these actors essentially go into hiding, and, it's like, they pitched it as missing cast members. So if you're into that, people would have liked it.
This was definitely something that came at exactly the right time, because even 2 years later, the internet was too ever present for this to actually work. If this was tried today, like, it would be debunked in 20 minutes as soon as the trailer came out, type of thing, right? So this is very much of its time.
People believe that cell networks cause viruses to spread, so I don't know about that.
And I don't think you can make it exactly the same way nowadays either. There would have to be something else that they brought to it, rather than just people lost in the woods wandering around improvising their way out of it. As kids, as 5 and 6 years old, what would you have thought had you gone and actually seen this movie?
At 6 years old, I'd have been terrified. I went and saw Muppets that year, so that was probably the better choice for me.
That's right.
It would have been, his mom would have come up and seen him just staring into the corner of his room. Like, nope.
Yeah.
Oh god,
it's fucking weird. Actually, that comment's scarier than this movie. I'm sorry I said it.
if I'm looking objectively, if it like from 1999, just pretend I was in of sound mind to watch the movie.
Yeah,
I'm sure it would scare people a lot more then than it would now, because now there have been a lot of recreations. There have been other movies now that have been made pretty much the same way, just with better sound and better camera quality.
This is the movie that launched like 1,000 imitators. But even itself, like, there was the sequel that came out.
I've not seen the sequel.
Which I have no desire to ever see it, to be honest. That's the weird thing. Is like, as much as I like this, like, I don't really need to go and revisit a sequel and know more about the Blair Witch. But from what I understand, the sequel is not found footage at all. It's like a straight ahead movie that's awful. Like, it's like everyone hates it. Critics and people hated it. And then there's the reboot that was like a surprise, where it was a trailer play. I forget where it was. It was like not Comic-Con, but something like that, where it was trailer playing, and they kind of show some scenes, and it was like Blair Witch is what came at the very end. But it kind of came and went with like little to no fanfare. I don't think it's very highly regarded either. So again, I think this is really one of those movies that like jumped into the zeitgeist and then kind of just disappeared, but people kind of still remember it for what it was.
As you said, it was perfect timing, and that's probably why number 2 and the reboot just haven't done well. But it's been done, and it was good for what it was. Leave it there.
We're noticing too, 99, as we do this podcast, a lot of trope-defining films this year. I mean, like, you got The Matrix, you got Fight Club, you got... I can't even remember what we've watched this year. We've watched so many movies, and there's a lot of trash, garbage, and fucking just flaming piles of shit as well in this year. But, I will give Blair Witch this due, as you guys are exactly talking about. It spawned shaky cam movies, but whether they're technically found footage or not. But, like, why is this in horror? It's because they want you to think this could actually happen to you. Otherwise, it's not scary. And so I don't watch them because I don't want to know what could happen.
I guess that's kind of part of the reason why I'm so sucked into this, is that because the conceit here is that these are people going out and they're filming it because they're like these film students and stuff. There is that intimacy there, and it feels a little bit more real. And I think that is what they're always striving to do when either it is a found footage or it's a shaky cam. My issue, we keep bringing him up, which is Paul Greengrass, which is like the biggest like poster child for like the shaky cam thing, is that is like, I don't know, it feels fake to me because he's like trying to feel like intimate, like shaky things, and it never comes off as well as an actual like, hey, I'm filming this They should just have someone do an entire film with someone shooting in portrait mode, because that's basically what it would be nowadays if someone was out in the woods. So
imagine if they shot The Matrix in there.
yeah,
You know what? Like if they had done Matrix in found footage, that'd have been
To clarify, that is my favorite movie of all time. I just want to say that
Matrix?
now.
Matrix is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it still
Great
holds
movie.
up.
My number
That's
one.
the most incredible part. Is
I-
it doesn't feel old. Yeah.
it doesn't. Yeah, I was thinking actually while watching this too about, yes, it was innovative for the time, but I'm thinking like of other filming tricks that you could use in this style. Like if you were trying to make something a ghost story, Lost in the Woods film, people are just using either their cell phones or their cameras they're bringing into it. Like what kind of filming tricks could you use that could still be scary? And then I remembered, have any of you talking here right now seen the movie The Vast of Night? It's
Well, I've
on
never heard of it.
Amazon.
No.
It's on Amazon Prime here in North America, at least. I don't know if it is that way internationally.
Okay.
I don't want to say too much about it because there's a really interesting reveal that happens. So I'm not going to be spoilery, but one of the characters is a radio DJ, and he's having this really intimate conversation with a call-in person halfway through the film when things are starting to get really real. And what the film does, and I think this is so brilliant, and maybe other people think it's really hackneyed, but the screen actually fades out to black, so you're just listening to the conversation without any visuals being on screen whatsoever. And what it forces you to do is like to really pay attention to what people are saying, because there's no other visuals to distract you. And I thought, like, what an interesting way to do that for a horror film, where it's like at one point you could go to black and hear some stuff going on, and not just screams and stuff, but actual like use some cool sound design and stuff like that. And, like, I don't know if I've ever seen a horror film attempt that before, but I'm hoping someone does, because I think it's a cool idea that someone could play around with.
Yeah, I agree. I know a lot of them use the old drop the camera, don't they? So you can't
Right.
see anything, but you can hear stuff happening around, and you're just waiting for something to jump in front of the camera. But yeah, no, that's a cool notion.
As more and more of these found footage films were made, the more I watched them, the bigger of a critic I became with, like, why do you have the camera still? Like, there comes a point, it's like, why don't you just drop it and run
Sure.
away
Yeah.
from this? Like, I don't
Sure.
get why you still have the camera. Again, Cloverfield, even though I do kind of like Cloverfield, there is a point where I get totally sucked out of the movie. It's like, the batteries would have run out by now, and like, why are you still filming? I get like super pretentious about it. So
You've not got your charger on you.
yeah. It's like, well, it's the same thing as like how they always have to deal with most horror films now with cell phones. Like, oh, I can't get a signal, even though it's like in the middle of a city. It's like, no, there's no signal here, I guess. Like,
Seriously, though, what is the deal with the cell reception in this house?
This is how I felt throughout watching this trash heap. Is why does she still need to record? And they bring it up. I mean, they fight about it.
At least they talk about it, which is like they never talk about it in the subsequent films to this.
I found her grating, and I know that's maybe the point, but that was the other problem with this movie. I couldn't watch these kids.
The
kill
other big thing
themselves.
that I
I
remember,
hated them.
the big thing I remember reading about this, I think it was last year, like 2019, because they were doing like write-ups of like the 20-year anniversary of all these films that had come out in 1999. And I remember reading something about the Blair Witch, about how there was a longer cut, and I'm actually glad they cut it down to 80 minutes, because I don't think it needs to be longer than 80 minutes,
So
to be fair.
Definitely not.
Is that apparently there's a bunch of footage with the guys also being like huge jerks and like also awful, that they kind of cut all that out of and basically made her kind of the stand-in
Bad
villain or
person,
bad
yeah.
person. So a lot of that is because they cut out all the other scenes that showed the guys being just as bad and wrong as she was.
Yeah,
But
I didn't understand the
that's not in the
scene
movie.
where you find out that one of the guys has just decided to kick the map into the creek.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I even whilst I was watching that, I was thinking to myself, why? Like, if you did it
Yeah,
as a
why?
joke or whatever, you just say it straight away. You're like, oh god, it was just a joke. Sorry.
So, because the map wasn't working, Mitch. I didn't need it.
By the way, this is a clear memory I have, as my dad was in the room while I was watching this movie, and he gave me this little pearl of wisdom. So if you ever find yourself lost out in the woods and there is a river right next to it, follow the river, because the river is eventually going to run into a city or a town.
It'll run through it.
Yeah, it'll run through it. So
The
it's
river
like,
will run through it.
Yeah,
Just
they
follow
keep,
the
they
river.
keep hopping over though. They keep hopping over.
They keep hopping over it and like walking away from it. It's like, no, just follow the river. You'll get
And then
to
turning
civilization.
around.
It's great how often they talk about not wanting to walk on logs over rivers, and that's all they do in this fucking movie. Is they just they constantly find logs to walk over. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's impressive. Yeah.
It is, actually, it is impressive. I think I would have totally split a couple of times on those fucking things. Yeah.
We're done here.
All right. Well, the machine has told us that we need to wrap this up here. I guess any final thoughts on this film that anyone wants to bring up?
Okay, I'll start and say that I actually, I do genuinely like this film. I don't think it's something I could watch many more times, as it has been recreated, it has been redone. But I do think it was innovative and it was revolutionary, and I can only thank the guys who decided to go and do it, because you brought us so much more.
I wonder too, like, if because it got so successful that there is going to always be that backlash when things get super successful. Like, had this been released to theaters and nobody went and saw it, and then you uncovered it 20 years later, there'd be all these writers about, like, actually, this little horror film that was made for $60,000 is actually pretty good. I guarantee you that someone would write that, like, little essay up online. But the fact that it was such a big deal, I think just so many more eyeballs came to it, and then there's going to be so many more critics of what's going on. But
that's what I'm hoping will happen when people find the Zoom footage.
Actually,
these guys were onto something. There was something.
When the
here.
aliens attack, it's only going to be this video that survives, and that's the whole entertainment people
Why
have.
weren't there more subscribers? I mean, this shit is gold. They're all dead and gone now, but
that damn machine.
You watch your tongue.
Fucking machine.
We need to rate this film somehow, Dave. So people can go over to our Letterboxd page if they want to see like our full ratings of all the films that we've seen. That's letterboxd.com/KDVSTM. KDVSTM is, of course, also our social media handle on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you want to help support us, we do have a new Patreon page that we just started here. So if you want to go over to patreon.com/Kyleanddavevsthemachine. I tried to get a longer URL and they just would not let me. So you can go over there and help support us over there. And if you have any feedback, by all means, you can also email us at kyleanddavevsthemachine@gmail.com. Also, if you want to do something for free, you can also rate us and review us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. For our guests, I always hate saying this, but
no, you don't. You
Shaun
relish
and Mitch,
it. You
Shaun and
relish
Mitch,
it.
I want to know what you would rate this film, but your ratings do not matter. But we would still love to hear them. What would you rate this film out of 5?
I would definitely say my rating very much matters. But
Right? Kyle,
I would probably give
asshole.
this. I'd probably give this movie. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5.
Okay, I'll give it. I would say a 1, but I'll give it a 1.5, and that's purely because the acting is average. I think most people could probably do it. The cinematography is all over the place, as you know, Dave agrees with. It's not got much of a story, really. There's not much going on, and it's not scary. And horrors are supposed to be scary. The whole point I go and watch a horror is to be scared, and it failed to do that. So I would not recommend this movie.
Okay. I do not recommend stamp has been placed here. Dave, hit me. I pretty much know what your rating's going to be, but tell me what your rating's going to be here, Dave.
Sure.
Give it a 5.
Yeah, just to flip the script. 5 out of 5.
Actually, a 5.
I lied.
really,
This is my favorite
You really
movie.
convinced me, actually.
Yeah, this conversation has convinced me to lower my score. What is our lowest? Can I go to 0.5?
0.5 is the
1.
lowest, technically, because they won't let me rate it 0 on
Okay.
Letterboxd.
I'm going to give it a 0.5 because I think that this should be stricken from the annals of history. I think this is an awful thing that occurred. And it's genre defining, and people might like it, but those people are incompetent because this movie's awful. So I'm gonna go with a 0.5.
Here is where I think you're totally off base here, Dave, is that at a certain point, I think you do need to come at a film on its own terms a little bit. This being basically a student film that we're watching. Yes, you don't have to like it necessarily, but I think giving it the lowest rating is a little bit ludicrous, in my opinion. But that's because I also like this movie. Like I said at the very beginning, this is not a movie that is like on the top of my list. This is not going to be even in like my top 50 horror films of all time. But it's a movie that'll pop in every so often and probably take a watch of it again. And I've rewatched it multiple times in my life. So I'm giving it the somewhat solid rating of 3.5 out of 5.
Respect.
What that does mean is that through the laws of averages, that gives it a 2 on our ratings, which makes it tie with one other film, Dave, which is the comedy, I'm going to put that in quotes, comedy Superstar.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
Personally, I would rate this above that movie, but what do you think, Dave?
It seems like Dave's a bit of a cynic here, really.
Yeah. Well, can I just this is peeking behind the curtain here right now. The average Dave rating for this season is 2.7, and the average Kyle rating, the average Kyle rating is 3.3, and I'll leave that what you want to make of it.
It means that I have taste, Kyle. It means that I have it means that I have lines that I will not cross. This is a tough one because I definitely hated Blair Witch more, but Superstar is such a piece of crap. Like, it's just not a good movie.
Yeah.
And it hasn't influenced culture at all. I think
that you have to put this just because of how it influenced it. Whether you like the movie or not, like, it is more culturally relevant than Superstar is ever going to be.
At this point, I just want to like put my fingers in my armpits just to fight back. No, you're right. I'll allow. I will allow you to place the Blair Witch above Superstar.
Sure. Entering the list at our number 32 position is the Blair Witch Project. Well, I guess that means that we get to find out what we're watching next week. And Shaun and Mitch, it's so lucky that you get to be here to see what is revealed here for next week. Let me push this button here.
Drum roll.
And a horror movie that I think that Dave is going to like more. Just in time for Halloween, we're going to be watching The Sixth Sense.
Oh, nice.
You'll love it.
Yeah. Mitch and Shaun, what are your impressions of The Sixth Sense, if you have seen it?
Yes, this is a fantastic movie.
It's a great film. I don't know if it still holds up as good today. I think people find it a lot more obvious today when they see it.
Right.
But it's a top film, really good. One of M. Night Shyamalan's rare gems.
It is kind of true at this point, yeah.
I like that you can pronounce his last name. I mean, that's the English education, right? Because I can't. I can hardly read it. Yeah, I like the movie's been troped and memed and quoted so often that there's no spoiler. But
not to spoil our conversation for next week, we'll pick it up when we talk about it. I have the opinion, and maybe I'll be proved wrong, that this is like the start of child actors actually being good. Where nowadays it's actually kind of the exception to the rule if there's like a bad child actor in your movie, where you just kind of accepted that children were going to be bad in the movie when they were in it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I hate all children equally.
Shaun and Mitch, how can people find you online if they want to keep in contact with what you are doing?
Go on, you know all the names.
So YouTube, it's just Wack Chat. It's movie time. Twitter, it's Wack Chat Podcast, and Facebook, Wack Chat, and Instagram is Wack Chat _ it's movie time. And that's the best way to find us.
Yeah, I highly, highly recommend. I do love the fact that you have a YouTube channel as well. It's something that Dave and I have been trying to figure out how to do
it's definitely worth
here.
It.
But
it's worth it, I think, because it's just so much fun.
Second biggest search engine in the world.
Yeah. If we did it live, too, we could probably take like people like texting us stuff and like that, too.
Yeah.
While we're watching a movie. They could just send me puke face emojis when we watch this piece of crap again. Actually, like Metacritic, we'll get half, right? Like there'll be one stream hearts, one stream like puking faces, and
I'd love to know what Dave's favorite film of all time is.
Oh, that's a hard one.
Weirdly, it's Blair Witch 2. It's his favorite film.
It's actually the reboot.
Yeah, I don't know. Best film of all time of any movie ever made.
Yeah, what's your favorite movie?
Your favorite?
Probably Seven Samurai.
Okay.
So by the way, can I just point out, I have not seen the Seven Samurai. I hate that I have to admit that, but I have seen the Blair Witch 5 times, which is about the same runtime when you think about it.
Yeah, actually, maybe. And then previously is probably one of the cuts of Blade Runner, maybe the final cut. I can't remember.
One of the 5 different cuts of that movie.
Yeah. I don't know. What about you guys? Like, what's a good rom-com? Like, give me your top, and then I'll pipe up.
I know what yours is.
Well, we just recorded our favorite chick flicks.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
My number 1 was Raising Helen.
I've never heard of it. Misogynist.
My number 1 was Miss Congeniality.
Oh yeah, Miss Congeniality is a good one. I like that one.
That's a good film. It's a good film.
That's the
But yeah, obviously, just want to say thank you to you guys for obviously having us. And it's weird being back in 1999. So thanks for showing us the way.
Yeah, awesome.
It's your fault for walking through floating mysterious doors. So
We'll avoid those in future.
Well, if I manage to see a floating mysterious door that says The Matrix on it, I will happily step through it.
Sure. Dave, can you grab a mop? I think we need to try and wipe this stuff off the walls. And especially that one that's over there that's just bleeding. Just straight blood is streaming down the wall. If you could help me, clean that up.
I think I'm just going to stand in this corner.
You watch your tongue.